everybody, or?
Sure.
Feels good here. Okay.
Okay.
Mike, did you want to go through the...
Can I just get 1 or 2 minutes if that's not mine? I've got a couple of people here just having no sound problems. I'm just trying
Sure.
I wouldn't want to leave anybody behind, so...
Sure.
Basically, I'll just mention it to them now by voice.
Okay.
Okay, there's this. Okay, we were getting trouble from, Durga and, who was it? Andrea. If both of you can't hear me, I know that's the problem. Well, I've written to them both.
Okay.
And yeah, Morgan's just stated on the chat box as well. If you're having no luck. Okay. Right. Well, just go ahead. Morgan and myself will try and sort out this problem. Okay.
Okay.
Do you want me to quickly do a run through them of the screens?
Yeah, you can do a run through the screens, and yeah, that would be good.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome today. I'm just going to quickly take a moment to explain a few things about the WebEx software if you haven't used it before. If you have, please be patient, bear with us. Okay, the default screen, which we all should be looking at, we should have an image of Ram Dass taking like 3/4 of the screen, the video screen, and the chat box positions to the right-hand side of the screen. This is the default screen. Remember, if we've already asked, if you do have any questions for Mirabai or Ram Dass, please open up the Send To box and direct your questions to Morgan Mayer, and he'll make sure they all get asked when the time comes. So, if we will take a look at the video screen, we can see in the top right corner there's an icon that looks like 3 people huddled together.
Yes.
If you want to go ahead and click on that, it'll bring us to the full view.
Great.
We use something called VoIP control, and this is the main viewer will be taken over by whoever is talking at the time. Being myself at the moment, I should be on main screen for you all. And then we should all see along the bottom, if everybody's turned on their web cameras, we can say hello to everybody there. So we are all part of one big community at the moment, so enjoy. All right, if you need to get out of this, if you need to send a question to ourselves, to Morgan, concerning Ram Dass or Mirabai, please just go to the top right corner of the screen where it says exit full screen mode, and that'll bring you back to the default screen where you've got the opportunity to use the chat box. All right, thanks. Okay, enjoy.
Okay, well, it's my pleasure to welcome everybody back to our 3rd session with Ram Dass, with Being Here Now with Ram Dass. And his guest today is Mirabai Bush. And Mirabai is a senior fellow and the founding director of the Center for Contemplative Mind and Society, which is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to encourage contemplative awareness in American life in order to create a more just, compassionate, and reflective society. So I know we're going to have a wonderful session, and now I'd like to turn the microphone over to Ram Dass.
Good. Hello. Namaste. And I'm very delighted to be with Mirabai. She and I have been guru by and many things. We are authors of a book, Compassion in Action, and she runs a wonderful organization. Well, she did run a wonderful organization. And she and I have fun. I think you'll get a whiff of that in our conversation. Mirabai, do you want to say something?
I'm really happy to be here with you. You look great. I haven't seen you for a little while. Yeah, so, I'm always happy to have a conversation with you about anything. And this being one of our favorite subjects, this should be great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Probably we should start with something about suffering. We all push away suffering, and it's kind of important that we face directly to suffering. Important for the world and important for our spiritual development. That includes pain and suffering and pain and cruelty and injustice and things like that. In fact, if we look at suffering in the world, we quickly get our own darkness in our minds. Because we feel anger and frustration and identification, whole things like that.
Well, I was thinking that just in terms of, looking at our own suffering in relation to compassion, that the way in which we cultivate compassion or learn to be compassionate for other people is by seeing our own suffering and seeing we can't really have an appreciation for other suffering until we experience it in ourselves.
Uh-huh.
And it's not that we have to experience every different kind of pain in order to appreciate other people's pain. But even with that, I noticed, for instance, I've always been really healthy. I haven't been sick much. I've never been in the hospital. And that I was I had a car accident a couple of years ago, and I had a kind of chronic pain, sacrum pain that lasted like 9 months. And for the first time, I always think of myself as this very compassionate person, but it was true in the past when people had physical pain, I wasn't really there for them. and until I had it myself, and then all of a sudden, when I heard anybody was hurt, their bodies were hurting in any way, I was immediately, calling them, sending flowers, doing whatever, because I had experienced it. So in just a bigger way, we really, it's so important to look at our own suffering in order to have compassion for others.
I found that one of the benefits of my stroke is that I am compassionate to others. And because the pain just gets you down.
Would you say a little more about that?
Well, it's funny, when I wrote a book about aging and dying, Still Here, it was called, I wrote it at 65, and I was 65, and now I'm 80, and all that book was full of joys of aging and joys of oh my God!
The idea.
If this is joy, oh. But no. But just when I chronicle my aches and pains, it gives me an hour to go through them. But oh boy, and I'm realizing that the body isn't me, so that the body's having its aches and pains, and me, I'm way beyond that.
Yeah, well, I think that resting in the awareness around the sensations of the body is, that is cultivating the potential for compassion for others.
Yeah.
You're not attached to it.
And we suffer in our separateness. That our society puts us in me body, me psychology, me, and I go to, and that increases my suffering. I suffer much less when I think of myself as the one, as part of the one.
Yeah, I think those are the two important things about compassion: the understanding suffering through being aware of your own suffering, and then understanding our interconnection with everybody else. And that, like in that practice that we do sometimes, this person suffers just like me, and that we're all connected.
Yeah.
It's all just like me. The most unlikely person, the last person that you think is just like you, it turns out at that level really is just like me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was Maharaji's, we're all one. We're all one. We're all one. What you and I shared board membership on the Seva Foundation. And the Seva Foundation was, one of its tasks was blindness in the world, getting blindness in the world. And I think there's a clear suffering. There are blind people in impoverished circumstances. And yet I found myself, here I was speaking for the Seva Foundation and speaking about the blindness and the operations and all that. And it was, I guess it was because I wanted to be part of this group in Seva that was a group of social activists, doctors, and spiritual people. And when I finally went to Nepal and India and our hospitals, and these the bandage over the eye, and they would be brought in to the surgeon, one after the other, one of the other, and you'd know that that operation will change their life completely. And I think, for me, very proud that we was contributing to that. And yet, blindness was only one suffering. One suffering. One suffering. Did you have that feeling?
Yeah, of course. But this might not be the core of what you're saying, but I do know that often we get this feeling that, it's only one thing, there's so much more. But that I think it's important that we each do what we can do and that we can't do everything. And I was really aware of that. I mean, lots of those people who were blind, even the very people we worked with, had lots of other things wrong with them. And other people said, well, if you're going to put all that energy into going into those villages, you should work on maternal and child health. This is more important. But, we worked on that one thing, and it was extremely important to the people who could see again. And it was also always a great metaphor. Once I was blind, now I can see.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. But, yeah. It's, I think it's a really big, trying to decide what good you do in the world. That's really important. I mean, I know that both of us were very involved in doing very direct things. I think it wasn't a coincidence that Maharaji said, feed people. There was a level at which, yes, give people back their sight, make sure people can eat before. but both of us have in these recent years spent more time helping people see into themselves and understand the nature of suffering instead of dealing directly with physical suffering. And I mean, that's also a great gift for people.
Well, I think that a person who does not have direct identity with their souls is suffering. And and that's why I now see my work as anti-suffering.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I realize that we're part of the Hanuman cult, and Hanuman just is loving awareness with loving serves God and serves all the people. They are all God. And this is, I guess, bhakti too, because service is a beautiful way to God, and service of suffering everywhere. Yeah, and that it shines the light on your heart when you're dealing with somebody else's suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that relates to something that I asked you the other day, and I want to ask you again. That after all these years of doing all kinds of action, everything from the literal helping people see again to teaching people, and then all the stuff in between, the prison project and the dying project and everything that saved the time we spent in Guatemala with Mayan people, helping them restore their land. That was amazing.
It was.
So much time, and you're still doing it. And you could just be, as you say, you could just be content looking out at the waves or listening to a cello sonata. You know? So why?
I do those things too.
I know.
Why do I keep up serving?
Yeah.
Partly it's Maharaji's presence in my heart, that I help him. That's what I'm doing. That's what my life is. And because I identify with other people, that is the way compassion works. I mean, when I hear of of a baby hungry. Boy, I feel that, because he's me and I'm him. There's no doubt about it. And when I look at the television and see those people that are fighting their government and they're wanting
In the Middle East.
in Middle East. I just feel identified with all of them.
Yeah. You know, I'll just interrupt for a minute just to say that, that just in terms of how compassion really does grow by continually being engaged in it, because those examples are so powerful. But you know, some of the things that have happened to me over the last several years at Template of Mind have been things like working with the Army. And you know, they called me up and they said, or this one chaplain called up and said, you know, I wondered if I want to hear a little bit about meditation and what it can do. He said, we've got soldiers on the field dying all the time. We've got caregivers in the Army who have compassion fatigue. And and I'm wondering if meditation could help them. This is maybe 2 years ago, or 3. And so I had a conversation with him, you know, and then he said, well, this is really helpful. Could we talk again on Wednesday? I said, sure. And he said, okay, I'll be at your office at 1 or something. You know, and I hung up and I said, oh my gosh, he's coming to the office, you know. And then I said to my staff, he didn't even ask me how to get here. And then someone said, Mirabai, they found Baghdad. They're going to find Northampton. But, and, you know, I had come out of all this anti-war stuff in the 60s and 70s. And, I mean, I thought of myself as essentially, you know, an anti-military person, you know, and I live in this really progressive town, and they're always demonstrating against the military. So Wednesday comes, and up the stairs he comes, and it's in Northampton, and he's in full camouflage. So I said, and the boots, big boots, you know. I said, camouflage, the thing about camouflage is it works opposite if you're out of the jungle, you know. Like, he might as well have been a neon. Everybody in Northampton turned around and looked at him, you know. So, but anyhow, he came, and he was this really wonderful human being, as it turned out. Once we hung out, and as it always does, it turned out he was just like me. We cared, you know, we care about relieving suffering and helping other people, being happy. So he told me these amazing stories about what these guys were going through. And so that turned into a whole project that we did, and it ended up being, we gave I think we called it a symposium at the National Cathedral with about 40 people or so. And these Army guys came from, you know, they came from the Pentagon, and they came from Walter Reed, and they came from the Department of Defense, and West Point. And they told, and we brought meditation teachers and researchers. Sharon Salzberg and Norman Fisher came. And they told their stories about why they were looking for help. And, you know, we told the stories about what meditation had meant to us personally and what it had been to teach it. And it was the most amazing day. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I loved every one of those people. I was helpless, you know. After that, every time I saw a uniform, I was like, my heart quickened. You know, I just like, oh, these are our people, you know. They were really beautiful, and of course, they were experiencing incredible suffering. And they were, by definition, compassionate beings, or they wouldn't be there trying to figure out some new ways to intervene. It was so beautiful.
Yeah.
So that was just an interruption to say, babies always do it, and people who are clearly suffering, but it's also true for people who we think of as like totally other from us.
Yeah.
I know you know that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. That's good.
So I interrupted you saying why you're still doing it.
Now I feel my heart for the army. Oh well. But
yeah, there's more people to love. There's a lot of them.
when that was Maharaji, he said, "Ram Dass, you have to love everybody." And I said, "Everybody?" Maharaji, really, really? And finally, in those days, our Secretary of Defense was a bad man. And
Caspar
Weinberger, yes.
Where does that come from?
And but now I've got it so that the bad person I put on the my puja with all of the beautiful souls like Jesus and Ramana Maharshi and Ananda Mai Ma, and then I put we have on there now the head of the Congress, Boehner. I've decided he's my poster boy for everybody. And I sit there and all I do is I have to say, Mr. Boehner, I want to meet your soul. And then I have compassion with that soul. It's got a lousy incarnation. And I've been busy hating your incarnation. And but I must place my compassion for your soul. Because each time we've taken a bad incarnation, that's a tough spot for a soul.
Yeah. Someone said to me about George Bush one time, he's a Buddha of the future.
He's a what?
A Buddha of the future. It's just, it's just time. But, and of course, I mean, it's important to say that you can really disapprove of people's behaviors and actions and at the same time love them as another human being who also wants to be free from suffering and doesn't quite know how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Maharaji said to me once he said to me, Ram Dass, you know Gandhi? I said, yeah. I said, I don't know him. I know of him. He said, well, would you be like Gandhi? And your guru gives you an order, you got to be like that. And of course, I was, kidding. I've got to be like Gandhi, and I'm down to the city in Nainital, and I got little glasses, looked like Gandhi. I thought that isn't going to wash. And then I saw some Gandhi-esque things, like when the Salt March, he said, how do we get rid of the British out of India? And he marched hundreds of miles, and he took millions of people. The British had a tax on salt, and salt is terribly important. And Gandhi walked with that crowd right to the sea, and he just scooped up